Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another video here on the channel. Today we are doing updated audiobook recommendations. I made a video with audiobook recommendations maybe a year ago, maybe more. I don't know. In it I recommended a whole bunch of stuff, some of which I don't necessarily recommend anymore. So I thought it would be about time to talk about audiobooks. But I realised I don't really want to just talk about what I talked about in that video again and take out the problematic ones. So I thought instead I would give you kind of like an update of what things I have listened to on audiobook in the intervening year or so, and what I've enjoyed, and or maybe like why I think it was a particularly good audiobook or not. I know some people really focus in on, did I like, the narrator of the audiobook? I particularly look for books narrated by this person. That's not necessarily how I've been consuming audiobooks. I think I'd probably find some common people if I looked into it in any particular way. I just like stories and I like to consume them in every way possible all the time. I went through my Scribd history basically and went, what have I enjoyed? I use a mixture of Scribd and Audible, neither of whom are paying for this video in any way, shape or form. I wish. I do have an affiliate link for Scribd where if you sign up to a free trial, I get a bit of my thing that I pay for free. If you did want to try it, I find it a very good way of consuming particular audiobooks. Not everything is on there, of course. As I say, they're not paying me, that's just disclosed down below. The first one of these I did actually listen to on Audible. This was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Stormlight Archives. I haven't continued on with the series yet, but I do have the second one lined up. I guess this is my thing of, sometimes when something is huge, like a really big, chunky, a big fantasy, I prefer to do it by audiobook, even though that will take me much longer than it would take me to read it. And I think that is because with big things, I have a tendency in myself and I just want to get through as much book as possible, particularly before I was doing a page goal rather than a books read goal. More so, I wouldn't take in all the information and then I would miss things and be very confused. And I feel like with a series that's going to have as much callbacking as a Sanderson series is going to have, I should probably absorb more of it. And that you'll see come up in a fair few things on this list. I did enjoy that audiobook. I had a good time with it. I will need to listen to it again before I read the second one. But as you will know, if you've been catching the snippets from various videos at the moment, I have vague plans for a Brandon Sanderson full project at some point, maybe this year, maybe next year. Who knows? The other book series where I did that, I chose these quite hefty, large chunks of text, and I decided audiobook was the way to go. I did it with Robin Hobb over the last, I think I did it from kind of like 2019 through to the end of 2020 is my guess. Robin Hobb's run with the Elderling series, I should say. That was absolutely the best way to do it for me. I loved experiencing it. The narrators are really great. The only thing is that they occasionally change their pronunciation of places, which isn't a huge bother, but it was somewhat confusing, and there were a couple of times where I was like, we're talking about the same... We are talking about the same place. Okay, that's great. But in some ways, I didn't mind that too much because in a fantasy world where you didn't have like standardized pronunciation because you just wouldn't have, it makes sense that different people might pronounce things differently. I don't know. It made sense to me. I've rationalized it now. I really enjoyed that series via audiobook. I would recommend them. If you were interested in getting into Robin Hobb and you weren't sure the best way, audiobook is the way I would do it. A couple of these are in my previous video, I'm pretty sure, but David, I will always recommend the audiobooks. I love them physically, I've read them physically, the audiobooks are another level. The narrator is really fantastic in that, and just, I'm looking behind me because I know one of them is behind me and I can hold it up and save myself some time. There we go. I just really love listening to this world in a way, which I know sounds odd, but I just found it gelled with me emotionally much more in audio than it did in text. The David Bad series, which has a 4th book series of short stories being added to it this year, is it's very character-driven, I think. Politics, romance, character-driven fantasy set in 18th century Cairo, thank you, back of the book. And we have a main character, Nari, who goes on an adventure beyond what she ever thought would possible and learns a lot about herself and changes a world in the progress of that. And that's all I'll say on that one because it's such a joy to experience for yourself. A duology that I've mentioned in a duologies video fairly recently, The Children of Time, Children of Ruin by Adrian Tchaikovsky, is a duology, much shorter than some other things I've mentioned previously on this list. And we have a world that has been terraformed. They're planning to drop some monkeys with an accelerated evolutionary serum sort of thing, sci-fi, down onto the planet. The monkeys will evolve more quickly, and then they will worship the humans. Hooray! Except something goes wrong with the monkeys. Instead of the monkeys evolving, the invertebrates evolve instead, and we have giant sentient spiders. Giant sentient space spiders, in fact. If that sounds horrifying to you, it did to me as well, but it's actually such a lovely read. It's sort of a look at what would happen if vertebrates weren't the ones who had evolved on planet Earth in the way that we did. And, it's fantastic, and I think audio, again, allows me, personally, the chance to just slow down a little bit, take in some of the detail of the world, which Adrian Tchaikovsky has put in spades. I think the second book is less strong, or possibly I've just read it fewer times, possibly, but I did enjoy both of them. I thought the narrator was really good, and because it's this big sprawling narrative across quite a large period of time, it really works to listen to, and it's quite easy to pick up and put down, which is something that I really need in an audiobook, because I'm snatching times throughout the day where I can listen to it, quite often on a dog walk. So I need something that, if I stop in the middle of a chapter, I'm not going to be completely lost when I pick it back up again. These are over-ear headphones, in case that wasn't clear what I was doing. Some sort of step stance, I don't know. Very recently I've listened to the Machineries of Empire series by Yoon-Ha Lee via audiobook. I read Nine Fox Gambit, which is the first book. I read it physically last year, and I didn't really understand any of it, and I was kind of I don't know if I need to finish this series. And then Overbooked was coming up, and I was like, now is the time. So I listened to all three of them, Nine Fox Gambit, Raven Stratagem, Revenant Gun. I haven't listened to Hex Arcade Stories yet, but I will. Via audiobook, again, it just worked, and I think my way of processing text is very different to my way of processing audio. I found it a much better time, especially because Machineries of Empire has some quite complicated world building that, in my opinion, you don't really need to understand. And having it via audio just meant I could kind of go okay, I think I've got what I need to get from this mechanics that have been explained to me, and I've interpreted as math stuff. Mathsy magic. Great, let's move on. And I found that really helpful. The negative to audiobooks, I will say, is that sometimes things happen on page that you would rather not experience into your ears, that you could maybe skim over if you were reading it. Robin Hobb has a couple of scenes where I was like, I don't want to be listening to this. I would be fast forwarding if this were on TV, and I cannot escape this section of the audiobook. And that also happens in Machineries of Empire. So if you are a person who requires content warnings for particularly non-consensual events, then maybe try and find out when they happen so you can prepare yourself for those particular chapters. That would be my recommendation. I think if someone had told me that some of the Robin Hobb chapters were coming up, I would have braced myself more. I found, having compared print of Machineries of Empire to audiobook, I found audiobook much easier to understand. So if there's a book that you're really struggling with in terms of understanding the world building or getting into, sometimes audio can be a really good way of dealing with that. Into some more fluffy nice times. I listened to the second book and the short story in the Regency fairy tale romance, words to that effect, series by Olivia Atwater. I've talked about these fairly recently, so they're quite fresh in my mind, but they're a really lovely Regency fairy tale romance. There are the Fae, there are some Regency characters. It's quite politically left-leaning, I would say, which I enjoyed. I need to pick up the third one. It'll happen at some point. I don't think it's going to happen via audiobook because it's not on script anymore. It was really nice to just have something sweet and light on in the background that I could come back to when I wanted to, and the audiobook narrator was good. That's nothing to dive into the ins and outs of audiobooks there. I just enjoyed them. I also listened to Clock Tour by T. Kingfisher. I've talked a lot about T. Kingfisher on this channel. I really enjoyed Clock Tour. They were good. The audiobook narrator was good. It's a really weird story of kind of a band of people who are forced to go and deal with these, whatever is producing these clock tours, which are horrifying creatures that are trampling the countryside and causing a lot of war and strife. And they have to go and deal with them and work out where they're coming from and what's going on. And it's to explain it more than that would be probably spoiling things, but it's basically more about the characters than it is about the actual journey that they are going on. That's what I would say. They're going on an emotional journey while going on a quest. It's great. It's sort of a D&D party, but if all of your D&D party were very, very sad. One that I really enjoyed that surprised me was Vita Nostra, and this is in translation, and it's made me think I should probably look up more books in translation via audiobook, because sometimes linguistic choices have been made. Vita Nostra, very weird. Kind of dark academia, kind of literary fiction, kind of fantasy. Girl ends up, via fairly unfriendly circumstances, going to a magical school and no one ever explains anything. If you want things to be explained to you, this is not the book for you. Do not read Vita Nostra if you need things to be explained. I had a really good time with it. I listened to it kind of in tandem with Angela, and we had a really good time. And I think had I read it on page, again, I would have tried to get through it faster to get to the answers, but there aren't really any answers, and audiobook meant I had to stay at a fairly consistent pace. I think that's another book also where a lot of the experiences the character has are quite full, wide, expansive experiences, and having that happen through your ears rather than just as words on a page is quite a different experience for me personally. Inserting just another one that I really loved the narrator and I really enjoyed it, Memoirs of Lady Trent. You knew it was coming up. I listened to all of these via audiobook as kind of a reread, refresh, recap for myself. Loved them. They're so good. The narrator absolutely captures Lady Trent's voice wonderfully. If you wanted to pick up that series and you were like, ooh, text or audio all the time, all the way, audio, do it now. A Natural History of Dragons, that's all you need to know. You will know now if you want to read it. I'm going to do a quick fire of some other novellas that I've read that I don't have a huge amount to say on, but I did listen to them on audiobook and enjoy them. Princess Floralinda and it's something like in the 40-foot tower. I'll put the cover up, but Princess Floralinda is by Tamsin Muir, and it is the first Tamsin Muir book I've read that I've understood and liked. I'm not saying I didn't like Gideon the Ninth and the Locked Tomb series. I did. It's made me want to listen to them via audiobook, but that's a very nice novella. Empress of Salt and Fortune and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain by Niveau. Some of my favourites I listened to in 2020, 2021. Time is a blur. Love them. Really excited for the next novella in that series. And Driftwood by Marie Brennan. More Marie Brennan for you. Driftwood is such a wonderful, somewhat hopeful novella. I kind of don't want to talk about it too much. I know it's in Angela's Top Books of the Year video. If you do want to hear a lot more about it, I would say just go listen to Driftwood. It's beautiful. And that's another one where the imagery of the book I found really worked into my ear holes rather than off a page. Strange Practice is a book featuring a girl, Greta, who is a doctor to the undead or supernatural beings in, I believe, London, but I don't actually know for sure. I think I may have just fill it in with London. I'm pretty sure it's London. This is just a fun adventure. It's a great story. I'd read it before on paper. It was great to go back and listen to it on audiobook because I unhauled my paper copy and I regretted it. And it was nice to confirm that, yes, I do need to attempt to pick up a copy of it again, probably secondhand. I'm going to try and find my copy again and also read the follow-up books. But yeah, it's a great story. And lastly, The Seep, which is gloriously weird. It's so weird. I owned it physically and then I needed something on in the background while I was sewing once and I picked it up. It's a very weird, kind of dystopian, kind of literary book about a woman whose wife decides to become a baby again. And she's like, hey wife, I'm going to become a baby again. And she's like, I'm not sure about that. And it's kind of about finding yourself after leaving someone you love because they're making choices that you don't necessarily agree with. And I found it really interesting. And I think if I read it on paper, I would have just been like, oh, this is weird. I don't like this. And having someone tell it to me as a story, I found very different as a reading experience. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been listening to for the last probably about 2 years, I would say. I listen to quite a lot of novellas on audiobook and I re-listen to a lot of novellas, like P. Jelly Clark, who I talk about all the time. I re-listen to those fairly often. Sometimes short stories turn up as audiobooks and I really enjoy that because I find reading short stories quite difficult, but listening to them somehow is easier. And I've been waffling on for nearly 20 minutes with not a huge amount to say. So I should probably stop. How do you like to read audiobooks? Are you a sit down and read them all in one go while I'm doing a big project? Are you pick 5 minutes every day and get to them? What speed do you listen to audiobooks at? I would be very interested to know that as well. And what recommendations you have for books either that you read physically and then listen to the audiobook, and like where you found differences between the two in terms of your enjoyment of the book, but also just audiobooks that you really liked. I would love to hear them. Plonk those things down in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also follow me on social media. Come hang out on Discord, where we have a wonderful time talking about books. Nothing makes me feel more loved and appreciated than my patrons who support videos like this and the channel. If you'd like to join their number, that's all linked below as well. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. I don't know why I'm looking behind me. I should probably be telling you like what these are about. Okay, we'll go back and do that. Very recently, I have listened to the Machineries of Empire series by... Why do I keep saying everything is by Brandon Sanderson? It was about to come out of my mouth.